I am George Michael, a 30-year-old businessman employed by a prominent and well-known company situated in my hometown. Within the company, I am a member of the sales team, and it's common for us to attend business-related social gatherings almost every evening. The venue I selected for these gatherings has been warmly received by our clients, indicating its success, which is a relief for me. As I observed my boss engaging in a hushed conversation with RCO, it was evident that plans were underway for the next gathering location. It appears that the upcoming venue might be a more upscale establishment, perhaps even featuring a luring company alongside the CEO of our client. It seems that the other regular employees are concluding their time here, and we've collected contributions to bid them farewell in a light-hearted manner. Our slightly inebriated CEOs exuded high spirits throughout the event, and once we ensured nothing was left behind, both senior and junior employees dispersed. While my colleagues were heading to a bar, I personally opted out, not being particularly fond of drinking. Despite the invitation, I declined and chose to return home early. I anticipated indulging in my sole hobby gaming once I reached home. As I excitedly made my way home, my attention was caught by a commotion in a narrow alley branching off from the main street. Normally, I'd disregard such situations, but the sound of a young woman's voice compelled me to halt. Peering into the dimly lit alley, I noticed a college-aged girl engaged in a heated argument with a man of my own age. The man's behavior appeared forceful, while the girl seemed visibly uncomfortable. The girl reminded me of my younger sister, compelling me to intervene. In a hushed tone, I addressed the situation, suggesting that the man reconsider his actions. In response, the man turned to face me, his disdain evident in his glare. A quick assessment of his attire, a well-fitted suit, designer tie, and meticulously polished leather shoes, hinted at his affluent background. He exuded an air of privilege. Despite his verbal retort, I stepped forward with conviction, driven by the desire to help the distressed girl. Upon entering the alley, I noticed that the humidity was noticeably higher than on the main street, possibly due to the air conditioning units flanking both sides of the buildings. Recognizing the girl's discomfort and the man's aggressive demeanor, I couldn't simply ignore the situation. With a calm demeanor, I reached out and took hold of the man's hand, positioning myself between him and the girl. Leveraging my ability to navigate complex conversations, I addressed the situation, determined to diffuse the tension and ensure the girl's safety. "Hey Ginny, do you recognize that guy?" the man shouts as he forcefully tries to grab the girl's shoulder behind me. Swiftly, I shield her, ensuring his hand doesn't reach her. He clicks his tongue in annoyance before launching a powerful punch. Personally, I despise violence. The impact propels me into the wall of the building, my back taking the brunt of it. I taste the metallic tang of blood in my mouth. The man gazes down at me, seeing me slump against the building's wall. A vulgar grin mars his face. These sorts of men rarely stop at just one punch. They derive pleasure from inflicting pain. As I attempt to escape, a swift kick lands in my stomach, forcing a groan from me, just as I expected. I almost find humor in how accurately I've assessed his actions. Right as he readies his fist for another blow, the girl shoves her smartphone screen in his face. "If you don't cease, I'm calling the police. Are you planning to involve your dad in cleaning up this mess again?" Her voice, cold and biting, seems to mock him. Perhaps he doubted she would truly summon the authorities because his grip on his fist tightens. Unfazed, she promptly starts dialing on her smartphone. From the phone's speaker, the voice of a police officer responds to a 911 call, inquiring about the emergency. The man's raised fist gradually lowers, and he clicks his tongue, frustration evident. "Don't think you can run, Olivia," he mutters before fleeing down the alley. Only when she's certain he's vanished does she end the call. "We should move before the police arrive. You wouldn't want more trouble, right?" She grips my arm, aiding me to my feet. Her shoulder offers support as I regain my balance. Her side profile radiates beauty, an intriguing blend of purity and enigma. By the time we find a bench in a nearby park, both of us are perspiring. She motions for me to sit, procuring a couple of water bottles from a vending machine. Handing one to me, she employs the other to dampen her handkerchief. Gently, she wipes my face, though the water she gives me stings my mouth. The taste of iron lingers. Apparently, I've managed to cut the inside of my mouth rather badly. "You need medical attention. You're bleeding," she remarks with a concerned expression. Her touch holds a cold handkerchief against my wounds. "I'm okay. It's not as painful as it seems." "Are you hurt?" I inquire, causing her to widen her eyes in surprise. Tilting her head slightly, she gazes at me with a puzzled expression. Did I say something unusual? I start to ask, but before I can continue, her slender hand moves with swift grace. In an instant, my suit jacket is whisked away. Excuse me, she says suddenly, leaving me unexpectedly without my jacket. I was left feeling flustered. I'll have it cleaned and return it. I apologize, but could you please provide your contact details? Her words carried a polite yet firm tone. Swiftly, she emptied the contents of the pocket onto a surface. When she discovered a business card holder tucked away in an inner pocket, a smile graced her lips. If you don't mind, I'll take a business card. Pardon me. Without delay, she extracted a card and handed it over to me. She accepted the business card, briefly pausing. I'll be in touch. A call from a college girl must be a nightmare. Give me your number. It seemed as though I had stumbled upon a charming thief. As I relayed my number, she committed it to memory without jotting it down. Introducing herself as Ginny Garcia, she extended her hand. Just as I was about to mention that the cleaning wasn't necessary, my phone began to ring. My boss's name was prominently displayed on the caller ID, and the message conveyed urgency. The CEO of a client company was inebriated, requiring my assistance. Sorry, I've got some work to do. Regretfully, I left her behind in the park as I hurried away. There wasn't much of a choice. Silently, she observed me from the park until I hailed a taxi and disappeared. A week later, during my lunch break, the charming thief reached out again. Her call timed perfectly to coincide with my break. Although I didn't recognize the number, I had a hunch it was her. The cleaning is finished, so when can we meet? Her question lingered in my ear. I informed her that I would be available after work the next day. She hung up after promising to send the meeting place via text. Her text message unveiled a restaurant unfamiliar to me. Her words concluded with a touch of gratitude. As a token of my appreciation, let's share a meal. It's a spot chosen by a college student, so don't expect anything too fancy. I tucked away some extra cash in my wallet and headed to the specified restaurant the following day. As I walked in, a sense of unease set in. This wasn't a student-friendly restaurant. Instead, I was guided to a concealed private room behind a hidden door. Paralyzed by surprise, I remained rigid until she arrived, albeit slightly late. Sorry for the wait, she apologized, bowing her head. My response was barely a whisper. It's all right. Taking a seat on the chair she pulled out, she ordered the chef's recommended course. New dishes, completely unfamiliar to me, appeared, captivating both my eyes and taste buds. The timing of drink refills seemed almost magical, and a friendly waiter helped alleviate my tension. The meal's climax was reached with the presentation of the dessert. Before me was a delectable cake, while a plate of cheese was set before her. Being a lover of all things sweet, the cake was, without a doubt, the best I had ever tasted. Aren't you having the cake? I inquired, puzzled by her lack of interest. Her face slightly darkened as she admitted, I don't care for sweets. She followed up with a wistful smile. I used to enjoy them. Tastes change as we grow. Not every girl in the world loves cake, I simply responded, shrugging off the topic. Throughout the meal, our conversation spanned various topics, building a bridge of connection. The individual who had been bothering her surprisingly turned out to be her fiancée, Olivia. Although she spoke about marrying shortly after college graduation, her demeanor hinted at dissatisfaction. It was evident that something was amiss. Isn't it a bit early to be tying the knot? I blurted out, sensing that there was more to the story. Olivia's response was a somewhat awkward smile. She remained silent. In her smile, I detected a mix of resignation and a knowing understanding. In just 2.5 hours, my curiosity about her deepened significantly. As I reached for my card to tackle the bill, a bill I was dreading due to its cost, I was met with unexpected news. The tab had already been settled. It's on me, as you've been of great help, she said with a smile, handing me back my freshly cleaned jacket. Exiting the restaurant, she bid me a swift farewell, prepared to leave. Wait, I have a proposition, I exclaimed, my desperation to keep her from departing evident. At the sound of her name, Christine turned back toward me. The sight of her gazing directly at me was incredibly captivating. If you're planning to get married soon, why not experience the things you won't be able to after you're married? I suggested. Her surprise was palpable. Her eyes widened at my bold proposal. It was an audacious idea, but it was the best I could come up with. Olivia, who was on the verge of marrying that man right after graduation, was obviously not enthused about the prospect. So my intention was to encourage her to relish her freedom before she became a wife. I wanted to see her smile, preferably by my side. What an unconventional proposal, she mused, her tone tinged with disbelief. Suddenly embarrassment washed over me. In a tentative voice I inquired, "So, is that a no?" Ginny, however, shook her head. "Where are you taking me for our fun day out?" she asked, brimming with excitement. Her anticipation eased my worries, and I was relieved to see her enthusiasm. "Let's start planning then," I suggested, and she readily agreed. Just like that, she effortlessly linked her arm with mine, signaling the start of our pretend relationship. And so, our playful charade of being lovers commenced. From that day onward, Olivia and I embarked on numerous dates at various locations. There was no rigid rule about who should ask whom out, but it was almost always me inviting and her eagerly accepting. Through our many outings, I gleaned a lot about her. She was more sheltered than I had initially assumed. Her excitement at the aquarium was infectious, and she couldn't help but act childishly as she longed to touch the penguins. At the zoo, she was adamant about wanting to adopt a baby lion. During a horseback riding experience, Olivia, an accomplished rider, dashed into the forest, leaving me behind. A particular memory stood out when she arrived at the county fair in a summer dress. I felt a tinge of awkwardness at the sight, unsure how to react. I found myself coerced into buying cotton candy that was 3 times the size of her face. To my amusement, she revealed that she actually disliked sweet treats, a fact she'd forgotten. Her persona had undergone a complete transformation since our initial encounter, and I was constantly caught off guard by the changes. On that particular day, we attended a solo exhibition featuring animal wood carvings by a female artist. She appeared to relish sitting atop a life-sized orangutan carving, interacting with children. I observed the scene, leaning against the wall, and found it quite heartwarming. Unexpectedly, I heard a familiar voice, and I turned to find a boy with a grin on his face. "Hey, are you here with your family?" I noticed a girl holding his hand, and he nodded with a cheerful smile. "You're a teacher?" the boy addressed me, and I discovered that he was one of the students I trained in boxing. "Well, are you the teacher's girlfriend?" Ginny asked, intrigued by the exchange. The boy corrected her, revealing that I was a boxing teacher and quite skilled in the sport. It was a side of me she hadn't been privy to before, and her intense stare made me feel somewhat embarrassed. As the boy energetically bid us goodbye and rejoined his parents, Ginny commented to herself, "You could have hidden, but you didn't." I understood she was referring to our initial encounter. "Why didn't you fight back?" she asked suddenly, her tone serious. Taken aback, I glanced at Rachel, whose expression held a notable seriousness. It was a question that harked back to our first meeting. "I simply dislike hurting people," I admitted. Though it might have sounded paradoxical, it reflected my genuine feelings. Having experienced both giving and receiving pain, I had an aversion to causing harm. This hesitation, I believed, had always been my Achilles heel. Throughout my school days, I often found myself as the runner-up in competitions. I couldn't fully commit to winning, and each time I came second, I felt a pang of remorse for my supportive family. "Would you hold the same stance even when hitting back is absolutely necessary?" Ginny queried in a cold voice, reminiscent of our initial encounter. Her words drew a noticeable chasm between us, as if we stood on opposing cliffs, gazing into an insurmountable valley. I couldn't respond to her question. Following our visit to the art exhibition, I lost contact with Ginny for a week. My calls and emails went unanswered. She used to pick up on the first ring. Concerned that something might have occurred, I grew anxious to see her again. Just as I was about to attempt to contact her once more, a colleague summoned me. He relayed a message that the director required my presence in his office. I had not committed any errors at work, so I re-wore my jacket and approached the boss's office, knocking gently. A low voice granted me permission to enter. Within the office were the boss, the director, the CEO of a client company, and one more individual, the man who had been pestering Olivia, was seated on the sofa. To my astonishment, it became clear that the man who had been bothering Olivia was the boss's own nephew. The client company's CEO also wore a stern expression. Dumbfounded, I stood there as the boss proceeded to explain the situation. "I am deeply disappointed in you for trying to steal my nephew's fiancée," the boss chided. The truth unfolded that Olivia was the daughter of the CEO of a client company and was engaged to the boss's nephew. The boss underlined the necessity of their marriage to strengthen the business partnership. It appeared that their companies were insisting on this marriage to enhance their respective operations. The revelation left me taken aback, struggling to comprehend the scenario. I couldn't help but blurt out, "So, in short, the CEO's nephew desperately wants her and used the company to get involved." My honesty seemed to escalate the tension in the CEO's office. The room's temperature seemed to soar. The CEO of our client company bore a questionable reputation. Rumors circulated that the current CEO had replaced his own brother to take control of the position, and he was known for reckless management and numerous extramarital affairs. "That's enough. I want you to leave the company. We can't have a thief cat in our midst," the CEO remarked disgustingly. I was appalled by the CEO's absurd comment. Beside him, the CEO of the client company nodded in agreement, stating that he could not maintain business ties with a company harboring thief cats. Frustrated by the nephew's smug expression, I retorted to the boss, "Personal life and work should remain separate matters." I expressed my reluctance to give up after having put in so much effort thus far. I felt an urgency building within me. I had grown weary of surrendering both Ginny and my job. I believed it was time to stand up and fight. "I'm not interested in your opinion. This is my company, and I don't need you," the CEO declared, gesturing toward the exit. Just as he pointed towards the door, it swung open without a knock. The CEO promptly rebuked the person who entered without warning. However, everyone in the room, including the CEO, was left in stunned silence, unable to move. "Long time no see, Uncle. My father sends his regards," Olivia greeted the CEO, her words devoid of a smile. The boss's nephew, her fiancé, appeared dumbfounded. "Uncle, were you the one secretly prying into my affairs, or was it my fiancé?" Olivia's question hung in the air. Only then did I realize that Olivia had uncovered the truth. The CEOs had discovered Olivia's and my relationship because someone had been investigating us. Likely, someone in that very room had hired a detective to probe into our lives, and my secret was laid bare. Everyone is accountable in this situation. "Your secret meetings with George exhibit irresponsible behavior, especially given your engagement," the CEO criticized. Ginny snorted at his words, her gaze revealing disdain for everyone except me. It was apparent that she held high regard for me. The CEO of the client company issued a warning to Olivia. "Don't meddle." Ginny looked at me and offered a small smile. "I'll handle this," she assured me, then proceeded to toss a stack of documents toward the client company's CEO. "You're fired, CEO Williams," Olivia declared, her eyes icy and cold as she locked onto CEO Williams. Flustered, Williams sifted through the documents she had thrown at him. His complexion paled with each page he turned. "My brother is the CEO from today," Ginny announced. Astonishingly, she had conspired with her real brother to take control of their father's company. Behind the scenes, she had invested in her father's company through her own, gradually acquiring shares. "We'll reclaim my father's company," Ginny declared, her gaze now on her stunned fiancé. She thrust documents at him as well, documents outlining compensation. "I'll seek damages for all the mental distress you've caused," Ginny stated firmly. Her focus then shifted to our company's CEO. He visibly flinched. "Mr. George, I'm recruiting you for our company. Get ready because I'm about to bring down this place too," Ginny proclaimed, a smile gracing her lips, although her eyes remained devoid of warmth. "Is this your idea of revenge?" CEO Williams asked in a strained voice. A broad smile crossed Ginny's face. "Compared to what you've done to my family, this is nothing. The real hell begins now," Ginny retorted with a triumphant tone. In truth, Olivia wasn't CEO Williams's daughter. She was his niece. Her biological father had been the ousted CEO, who died from stress and overwork after losing control of the company. Her mother, part of the loving couple, passed away not long after, likely due to illness. Only Olivia and her brother remained. SIA Williams took Olivia in, perhaps considering her a useful pawn for the future. He probably never anticipated that she would turn against him. Throughout her life, Olivia had been biding her time, waiting for the right moment for revenge. As CEO Williams crumbled in defeat, Ginny glanced at him briefly before extending her hand to me. "Welcome to our company, Mr. George," she invited. Just as she had promised, Olivia embarked on a mission to dismantle the company where I had previously worked. Witnessing her relentless advance, employees trembled, captivated by her unwavering determination. There was no hesitation or doubt in her actions. I started working as a secretary to the CEO at Ginny's company, where Mr. John is her true brother. He's the same age as me. The new job proved to be challenging in several aspects, but I somehow managed to cope. The company appeared to be transforming into a more pleasant workplace, free from the tyranny it once endured. The improved morale and brighter expressions of the employees served as proof of this positive change. While things were generally going well, there was one lingering concern that plagued my mind. Ever since the incident in the CEO's office, Olivia has been avoiding me. She actively ignores me, even when we cross paths in the hallway. She behaves as if I don't exist. Just when I was contemplating how to approach her, CEO John suddenly appears. "George, have you ever heard of a Savannah cat?" he asks, throwing me off with the unrelated topic. Perplexed, I tilt my head in confusion. A Savannah cat is a unique breed, resulting from the crossbreeding of a serval cat with a domestic cat, I explain. They're about the size of a dog, and depending on the breed, you might need to register with the local government to keep one. They're quite rare in Japan. Mr. John then surprises me by requesting that I arrange for a Savannah kitten. As the CEO's secretary, it's not uncommon for me to handle both work-related and personal matters. John, who is around the same age as me, often comes up with unusual requests. I thought having a Savannah kitten might uplift Olivia's spirits. She hasn't been herself lately, he confides with a concerned expression. Indeed, if I were to present Olivia, who expressed interest in having a baby lion with a Savannah cat, she would likely be ecstatic. "Certainly, Mr. John. I'm well aware of Ginny's preferences. I'll get right on it, and I'll also prepare a cake that suits her taste since her birthday is approaching." The mention of cake surprises me, as I remember that Chelsea, Ginny's real name, doesn't have a sweet tooth. It's something Mr. John should know. She can't eat sweets, which makes the request perplexing. But as I voice this, Mr. John seems taken aback and sits down, scratching his head in thought. His sudden change in behavior catches me off guard. As he holds his head, Mr. John mutters, "That girl, what a fool." It turns out that when Olivia was younger, she adored cakes. Every birthday, she would plead with her father for various types of cakes when her family gathered. Even after the company was taken over, her father continued to buy her a cake. But tragically, the day after one of Ginny's birthdays, her father collapsed and never recovered. It's a painful memory for Ginny, as she blames herself for her father's misfortune. Mr. John explains that she believes if she enjoys her favorite things, her father will come back to her. He never expected her to hold on to this wish even as a college student. Regain the company, crush the trading company that led to her father's downfall, he reflects. Despite Olivia's outwardly cold demeanor, she remains a young girl longing to reunite with her father. The depth of her sacrifice to find happiness again almost brings tears to my eyes. Promising Mr. John that I'll take care of the Savannah cat arrangement, I implore him to tell me where Olivia can be found. All I want is a chance to speak with her. Following his directions, I head to the location he provides, determined to reach out to Olivia at last. The joint art exhibition that we attended together is reaching its final day, and Olivia is said to be present. Amidst the lively chatter of children in the exhibition hall, I spot Chelsea lost in contemplation. Her gaze is fixed on a family admiring a wooden bear, seemingly immersed in their joy. Her expression appears detached, yet it carries an undercurrent of emotions as if she could break into tears at any instant. "Found her," I whisper softly and grasp her hand gently, ensuring she doesn't attempt to flee. Olivia, who glances back in surprise, has visibly lost weight since our last encounter. As I question her about her avoidance, she shudders in response. I hold her hand firmly, preventing any escape attempts, and she eventually relaxes with a resigned look. In a quiet voice, she confesses, "Because you dislike violence, don't you, Ginny?" Her words tremble slightly as she assumes that my avoidance stemmed from my aversion to aggression. "I do have reservations about violence, but my perspective has evolved," I respond gently, trying to alleviate her concerns. "If it's for your sake, I'm willing to make exceptions." Upon hearing my words, tears well up in Ginny's eyes. She opens up about feeling burdened by the impact her company takeovers have on innocent employees and their families. Despite putting on a facade of strength, she admits that she directs her resentment toward herself. She expresses her readiness to shoulder the blame and live with her decisions. "Is there something I can do for you?" I inquired softly, addressing the weeping girl before me. In a hushed voice, she answers, "Stay by my side like my father. Don't disappear. Always be there for me." Though my instinct is to embrace her at that moment, I hold back, channeling my feelings into the hand we clasp. "Understood. I'll always stand by you, Olivia," I assure her, Can you promise me that you'll smile at me every day? Through her tears, Olivia nods repeatedly, her emotions laid bare. Witnessing her tears, I make a solemn vow to myself. I will never be the cause of her sorrow again, starting from this day forward. I'm even willing to go so far as to arrange for a savannah cat if it brings her happiness. I can envision her embracing the large feline, her face beaming with a genuine smile. In matters of family, the more the merrier, I murmur, observing the families around us. A deep blush colors Ginny's cheeks, and I remark, "Isn't it true? It's a heartwarming thought." As we head home from the art exhibition, I pause at a jewelry shop along the way. Olivia's face turns even redder as she catches my gaze. Who could have foreseen that our initial encounter would lead us to this point? Back then, I had no inkling of the future that awaited us. Now, I find myself grateful to destiny for bringing us together on that fateful day.
Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you next time.